On Sunday, Donald Trump announced, and on Monday he signed, an executive order effectively lowering the cost of prescription drugs in the United States anywhere from 30 to 80%. Right? The executive order kind of gives that range. So, drug companies have a lot of wiggle room in there, which you didn't have to provide, but you did. So that was weird. But prescription drug prices in the United States are totally going to be coming down because the man who actually raised prescription drug prices on you just a couple months ago signed an executive order that's totally not going to be thrown out by the courts, right? It is. In fact, it's probably going to be thrown out in the courts or by the courts within the next week or two, because that's how bad this executive order is. And that was the plan this entire time. But before I get to that, let me remind you that earlier this year, Donald Trump rescinded a Biden administration executive order that lowered the cost of certain prescription drugs that were being paid for by Medicare. 10 prescription drugs to be exact. He got rid of it, said, hell no, we're not doing that, because that was a crowning achievement of the Biden administration, directing federal funding, and yes, that is very important to the issue here today, to lower the cost of federal drugs purchased by the federal programs, which president has authority over. Now, having said that, let me tell you what Donald Trump said during his announcement. Again, coming from the man who already raised your prescription drugs once this year and who is going to put a 25% tariff, at least, maybe more, on prescription drugs coming into the country. So he's going to raise your drug prices again. But here is what he put on Truth Social on Sunday. For many years, the world has wondered why prescription drugs and pharmaceuticals in the United States of America were so much higher in price than they were in any other nation, sometimes being 5 to 10 times more expensive than the same drug manufactured in the same laboratory or plant by the same company. It was always difficult to explain and very embarrassing because, in fact, there was no correct or rightful answer. The pharmaceutical/drug companies would say for years that it was research and development costs, and that all of these costs were and would be, for no reason whatsoever, borne by the suckers of America alone. If he had stopped there for the first time in his life, everything he said was correct. If he had stopped there on Sunday. All of those points he made are points that I have made over the years, both here and over at Ring of Fire. They're correct. They're accurate. Donald Trump didn't lie about something for once. But then he kept going. And this is where the lies began. Campaign contributions can do wonders, but not with me, and not with the Republican Party. Well, there you go. You just lost it because now you started the lies. Where do you think the bulk of the pharmaceutical industry's campaign contributions are going? They're going to the Republican Party. And then he continued, we are going to do the right thing, something that the Democrats have fought for many years. Biden literally lowered prescription drug prices, and you undid that earlier this year. So F you for saying that Democrats have fought against this. Bernie Sanders has been leading the charge. Ro Khanna has legislation in the House. Democrats have been trying to do this for years. Republicans have fought them at every turn. And a couple corporate-funded Democrats too, by the way. But this was a left issue. This was a Democrat issue held up by Republicans. And he's lying to the American public. Now, here is where things get interesting. As I mentioned, the President of the United States does not have the legal authority to tell a country, or a company, that they have to lower their prices. You can't do that. That would take an act of Congress. You know, like the legislation that Ro Khanna has sponsored in the House and Bernie Sanders has pitched in the Senate. You know, you want to lower prescription drug prices, get the rest of your Republican Party on board with these Democrats, and Bernie's an independent technically, and then pass the legislation, boom, Bob's your uncle, this is totally legal, prices are down. But you didn't do that because you don't actually want to lower prices, and here's the rub, folks. Donald Trump did this intentionally because he knows the pharmaceutical industry is immediately going to file a lawsuit against it. And when it gets to court, any judge, Trump judge, Republican judge, Democratic judge, doesn't matter, they're going to look at it and say, like, no, you actually don't have the authority to do that. Order struck down. boom, gavel it out. And the second that happens, whether it was a judge Trump appointed, whether it was a conservative judge, a liberal judge, it won't matter. Because the second this executive order lowering your drug prices gets struck down, that's when Trump gets what he wants. Because then he will go out there and tell the entire country, the damn liberal activist judges, the left, just caused your prescription prices to go up. That was the plan. That is the whole purpose of all of this. He knows he can't do this, but he did it anyway because he knows the courts will strike it down, and then he gets to frame this as the courts are bad, the Democrats are bad because they put the judge in there, no matter who put the judge in there. And I was trying to save you. I was trying to help you, and these damn courts won't let me do it. You know, maybe we should get rid of the courts. That's the second part. This will get the public on his side to go after the court system here in the United States. Then when Donald Trump decides to take a sledgehammer to the courts and continues to defy court orders, the public will be like, yeah, screw the courts. They kept my prescription drug prices high. Do you see how all this plays out? Now, Trump, of course, is not smart enough to figure this out. In fact, none of his cabinet officials are even smart enough to do this. This smells like something that came from Susie Wiles. Maybe Stephen Miller took a break from his xenophobia and racism to plot this. Somebody with a brain, an evil brain, but a brain nevertheless, cooked up this idea. And I got to tell you, from a purely evil genius perspective, it is genius. But the scenario I just laid out for you, that's what is going to happen. And that's not an accident. It's exactly what Donald Trump wants to happen. He gets the good press. The press, right now, even some of his detractors like Mark Cuban are like, hey, this is actually really great. Good for you, man. You're doing a good job now. The public will buy into it because the media won't sell it the way I'm explaining it to you. They'll miss the story. The public will be on his side. That was the goal of all of it. And I promise you, it's going to happen exactly the way I described it. Did you know that you might be missing out on wonderful content from me? I mean, you're here already because clearly you like what you see. So if you're not already, please do subscribe to the channel. Make sure you like the video, share them with your friends and family, but also follow me across the rest of the social media world. And it's not that hard to do. Whether it's X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, on every one of those platforms, you can find me at the username @FarronBalanced. Simple enough, right? So get on it. And if you don't feel like going to each one of those outlets individually, lucky for you, we have links in the description of this video to take you right to my pages across all of social media. So don't miss a minute. And while you're at it, make sure you're also subscribed to the Ring of Fire YouTube channel, which I have been hosting for many, many years now. We've got more than 1 million subscribers over there, and there is fresh content over there every single day of the week. So again, if you're not subscribed, subscribe to this channel, and while you're at it, go subscribe to Ring of Fire at youtube.com/The Ring of Fire and @FarronBalanced across every social media platform that, of course, is not considered just a far-right hellscape. Well, maybe Twitter is, but that's a story for a different day.